Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to GITEX Global, the largest tech show in the world, and a very special welcome here at Expand North Star, our dedicated landmark startup event. My name's Amandeep, and I'm delighted to be your host here across this week. This very special conference has been hosted by Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy in this brand new venue here at Dubai Harbour, which is really exciting for us. There's an action-packed program ready for you. But before we dive into this, just to set the scene, I first moved here as a BBC presenter, and over the last 10 years, I've seen for myself how this country, and in particular this city, has become a leading tech hub in the world. I would personally put this down to the amazing Emirati talent working alongside the international experts. It truly is a global environment, and that's why we're so pleased to see so many people from an international background gather here for the networking opportunities, for the business opportunities, and what we hope really is a friendship opportunity, because friendships really, they are the heart of every business. On that note, we're going to start with a very special opening session. It's got a high momentum guest list, and I'm going to be handing over into the very capable hands of the moderator, AB Sam Thomas, Editor-in-Chief of Entrepreneur Middle East. The particular session itself is called We Have an App for Everything, and apps really, they are that kind of bridge between big tech business and everyday life practicality. I can see more guests coming in. Please do make yourself very welcome and comfortable here. If we can ask the audience to be as close to the stage as possible. There'll be a chance for interactivity. Do have your questions ready for our illustrious panelists who are going to be ready to do a deep dive into a discussion. And they're smiling at me now because they know I've put them on the spot. Yes, there'll be some audience questions. Perhaps it will just be me putting my hands up. Without further ado, allow me to introduce, we've said the moderator, but now our wonderful four guests, and then we're going to applaud them as they enter onto the stage. We are very pleased to have a representative, a very high-level representative from the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy. Yesterday, of course, we heard from the CEO and President. That was wonderful to have him. And following in suit, we have the Vice President, Mr. Saeed Gergawi. Thank you so much for joining us. Manar Alkassar, who is the co-founder of KASO UAE. Elizabeth Donaghy, who is the Vice President and Head of Internal Operations, Sarwa UAE. And Shereen Mitwalli, CEO Naqqe of UAE. And another applause for them. And as I said, AB Sam Thomas, Editor-in-Chief, Entrepreneur, Middle East, he's going to take over now, so I hand over to them. Please do give them a very warm UAE welcome, like we always do for all of our guests. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. First of all, thank you, Amandeep, for that great introduction. Very happy to be here at Expand North Star and GITEX Global once again for this very good discussion, for what I hope will be a very good discussion on the business of apps, making Dubai a platform for the world's best apps. So we've got around like 30 minutes as per the clock, so I'm going to dive straight into the discussion. You know, there's like estimated around 1.8 million apps on the Apple App Store and 2.3 million in the Google Play Store. So, and both of them have business as the highest category in both of those stores. So what we are trying to do today is, because the Dubai Chamber yesterday just launched the App Olympics, which is like a competition to create the next greatest app out of here in Dubai, and we are inviting people from the UAE to be a part of this contest and build their apps right out of this emirate. Saeed, my first question is to you, given the launch of the App Olympics, given your Create Apps in Dubai initiative, maybe just give us an introduction to that. Why is this a priority for Dubai? Why is it being driven by Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy? And we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So I think, in terms of why we are doing this, it's quite clear that the aim of the Olympics is to be able to develop the best apps and the best solutions from Dubai. The reason being goes back to one, which I've heard the leadership always say in Dubai. Dubai is the world in a city. So we want to be able to, one, produce the best apps, but be a platform for testing, for experimenting these solutions. Already Dubai, from a technology perspective, whether it's drone delivery, whether it's different solutions, is already being tested on the ground. And we want to expand that platform where innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, and investors can use Dubai as a platform to experiment with solutions that can be driven by applications and by the growing nature of apps that are happening around the world. And being able, I think, just to add in terms of the fact that we want to be able to build the best apps from Dubai requires a demand that all of Dubai needs to cater for. And I think that will help us not only solidify or keep our position as a capital for the digital economy, but be able to further and continuously enhance that position.
Saeed, for those people in the room today who have not yet heard of App Olympics, who are not here for the launch, can you just give an introduction to the App Olympics? What are you hoping to realize from it? And we'll go.
Absolutely. So the App Olympics, basically, it is a competition-wide, a city-wide competition to develop the best apps in the world. And the idea is up-and-coming entrepreneurs, founders, students of all ages and nationalities can pitch their ideas, develop their apps, have them be reviewed by investors from various industries within the digital economy, vet their product, and be able to then launch them and show the world what their ideas can provide and how they can use Dubai's platform and offerings to be able to not only get the funding if needed, but be able to even start implementing that application. And as the chambers, we're more than happy to then facilitate not only their expansion through the market in Dubai, but even abroad as well.
So, we are talking about the aspiration of Dubai to become an app economy city. And we are joined here by three people who have actually done that already, who have given Dubai a head start in terms of creating apps out of Dubai. Elizabeth, you represent Sarwa. As we are just talking right now, I think you're the oldest app on the block right now, at least on this particular stage. Perhaps take us through your particular journey of creating the business and having the app being such an important part of the company, of its offering.
For sure. Thank you very much for having us today. So just a little bit of background on Sarwa. Sarwa was founded in 2017 here in Dubai. We're based out of the Dubai International Financial Center. We were the first to graduate with an innovation testing license in 2018. And we have also recently graduated from Abu Dhabi's Hub 71 incentive program as well for startups in the UAE. So we've been around for a few years now. Sarwa has grown over that time. We were the region's first hybrid money manager with one product, and we've since expanded and grown to not just the one product. We're a financial platform now. We've got a desktop and an app. We've got many more features on the app than what's on the desktop. But it's basically where clients can easily trade stocks, ETFs, invest and save their hard-earned money all in one place. So our mission is basically to help clients create wealth. So when I think about when we started on the journey, developing first the desktop and then the app, the biggest strength at that time was having co-founders with complementary skills. So if you look at our CTO, he's a full stack engineer. He has a background in working in hedge funds. He also minored in finance. And then when you combine that with our CEO, who is highly skilled in business strategy and financial modeling, that together was really important to make it quite an iterative process straight away. We also work quite closely with the regulators in the FinTech Hive and collaborated directly with them when we were iterating those initial stages to make sure that we were meeting all of the needs, meeting all of the targets, and doing it, you know, obviously we're regulated, so ticking all of those boxes correctly. In terms of the infrastructure that we've used, we chose to build with React for our desktop and React Native for our app, and that allows us to build once for multiple platforms, Android, iOS, literally from a single code base. So there are some other, you know, platforms out there that you could be using. For example, you've got Svelte or Flutter, respectively, for desktop and app. When you're looking at choosing what one you're going to use, you need to look at it from a security and risk-based perspective for us. While React and React Native are a little bit more clunky, they're much more security focused, especially with us being regulated in the financial services industry. We also chose to build on the cloud from the get-go rather than having it physically on servers. And that's enabled us to scale quite easily and securely. We're quite a lean team. And when I look at our engineering team, our tech team, it's quite lean. So having those resources to be able to move quickly and be agile is quite important. So the journey so far, it's been interesting. There's been a lot of challenges, but Dubai's been a great place to do this from.
Elizabeth, you mentioned just now that you have a website component and an app component, but the app has more features.
Yes.
What has been the response? Like, why did you choose that particular kind of route or tactic for your business?
So we started with the desktop. I think that comes from, when you're looking at setting up a brand and an app, you've got to build that brand identity, the awareness, all the different marketing strategies out there that you need. So we started with the desktop and moved quite quickly into building the app. We built it in-house. And the demand for it, basically we listen to our clients. So you get your client feedback. The clients wanted the app. It's interesting, the features that we've got on our app now, our clients are turning around and saying, hey, you need to build that on the desktop for us as well. So it's interesting. It all depends on what industry you're in, I suppose, what your target market is and what their needs are.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's about listening to your clients. And Manar, I do want to bring you up at this point, talking about KASO, like as a procurement platform for restaurants and suppliers. Tell us about your aspect of it. I know the app is like one of the integral components of your offering. Maybe just give us an introduction to KASO, and then, we can talk about the app aspect of the business.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah. So I think it's helpful to know a little bit about the journey, how KASO was also created. So KASO, what we do, we are connecting restaurants with their suppliers. So it's an ordering platform. You can see it basically as a B2B talabat. When restaurants order their own supplies, today how they used to do it before KASO is they do it with phone calls, they do it with emails, they do it on WhatsApp, and actually quite of them also do it with super archaic ways. So a funny story, when we onboarded KASO very early days is we were at this restaurant, which is actually a decent-sized group of restaurants. They have 30 branches, and we asked them, how do you do your ordering? And mostly the restaurant would say, yeah, we call our supplier, or we send them a WhatsApp. This guy was saying, yeah, WhatsApp, email, telefax. We were like, WhatsApp, email. What did you just say? Fax? And he's like, yeah, fax. Like, it's beautiful. Do you know how magical it is? If you put the paper inside, it comes out on the other side. We told them, like, have you heard about something called internet? And that's where we realized, okay, like, that's where there's such a big opportunity for us to disrupt the industry. And the funny thing is, at the beginning, we were working on a very different business model. We wanted to build a tech-enabled coffee business model, actually. But then when talking to a lot of restaurants, we realized there's a big opportunity because they do ordering themselves super manual. And it's very ironic because we order now today everything via an app, on Talabat, Deliveroo, Kareem, and so on. But the restaurants themselves are very archaic in their own ordering. And one thing, like what we learned, we built like then an app, brought it out like very quickly to the market. And the way we built it with an external team. Yeah? We had like an outsourced team. And for us, it was very important to go to the market very quickly. Yeah? So we launched within 20 days, and it was a horrible product. But one thing we learned, I think over the years building dozens of apps with Rocket Internet before helping one of them, and we learned if you are not embarrassed of the app when you launch, then you launch too late. Yeah? You need to go out with an app with a super small MVP and then learn. Yeah? So and then have the app evolve. And that's something we try to do. And to be able to do that, we decided to go out with a outsourced app, outsourced team. But also one thing we learned very quickly is it makes a big difference to be close to the customer. Yeah? To have like the team members. And team members, I mean, even the developers, the coders, sit down with the restaurants, understand their problems, feel their pain. It's different when you read a bug report and you think, okay, yeah, they're just like annoying customers users. When you sit with a customer and tell you, it's super annoying to deal every single day and waste like an hour with these things. And that's what we try to do by now bringing the team on the ground. In Dubai, we have like now all our developers. We had actually a team in Turkey, a tech hub in Turkey. We moved all the people just actually 2 months ago, all to Dubai.
I mean, like we were just talking about being close to the clients, and you're doing exactly that, having your developers talk with people on the ground. Speaking of, again, our third app founder on this panel, Shereen, we're talking about Naqqe, and again, it's a telehealth platform. Again, I would love for you to introduce it. But we were just talking about like how get it out as quickly as you can, and we were just talking about this, that we started the idea back in COVID-19 pandemic. So let's talk about the journey so far.
First of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for everybody here. Naqqe was founded during COVID. It was 2020, and like many of you guys, we were all stuck at home. And I think the idea is that we have a consultancy business, and one of our CEOs came to us, or came to me personally, in confidence, asking, do I know a therapist? Do I know somebody who's really good for him to talk to on a confidential basis? He didn't want to speak to his personal assistant about it, to get her to actually find somebody, because out of the confidentiality, of course, she would probably be passing on the message to somebody else within the business unit. So he came to me in confidence, and I said, look, I don't have someone, but let me find you someone, being the resourceful person I am. So what do? We jump onto Google, and we find therapists for corporate, high level, that is available. And little did I know that it was actually a challenge to actually find somebody that is available to speak to right away. There is no app that will connect a user to a therapist, and I'm talking about on demand immediately. The majority of them have something between a 20-day to a 90-day waiting period. That's not just in the region, but also internationally. And that's when I was like, wow, that can't be for something in regards to mental health, which is pretty much the most important. It starts with your mental health, and of course it carries through to our physical health. If we want to speak to somebody, I'm sure everybody in this room, 1 out of 4, in fact, right, in this particular room, will want to see somebody, want to talk to somebody about their mental health. This is from the World Health Organization. So 1 in 4 need to speak to somebody, regardless of all sorts of things, whether it's something got to do with work, your personal relationships, family, anything, or whether what we're going through right now in terms of world affairs, right? The challenge is that there isn't really an app that connects you. You have to then start calling people. And not only that, I found him somebody, and then he was like, no, actually, I want to speak to a male. After I found him a really great option that was available to speak to him in the next couple of days. He's like, no, I want a male. And that's his right. We all have a right to choose who do we want to speak to, what faith they should be, what language they should be speaking, and then what speciality. And then I realized there is actually no app that does that. There's no app that connects a user to a service provider, a professional service provider, that we can pick and choose their faith, their language, the sex that they are, and their specialization. So we built it. It took us 2 years, but we've built an app. And like yourself, we outsourced the team because we were very new into this. I said, okay, well, if it's not there, we have to create this. So we self-funded, we went out there and we outsourced a team. And I think many of the people, and many of you are in the room, are probably first-time founders of tech. And let me tell you from somebody who's done this, like yourself, it was when we actually now, all of our developers are all in-house, but we did initially start with an outsourced team. I'm not saying that it failed, but I would say the progress was lagged because of the back and forth communication. And like when you actually have your own team, and when we do our case studies and we're actually speaking to our doctors and speaking to our service providers and speaking to our users, we're able to gather so much more information and they care more. So that's the difference, if I can give you any piece of advice, is to try to build your own in-house team. Otherwise, you will have a delay at the beginning. So our in-house team now, I can say that I love and I trust them. They are so invested in our cause in terms of actually building an app. That both, because we have two sets, right? We've got the user to make sure that the users are satisfied, that it's so super easy friendly, it's confidential, it's super secure, and on the other side, the app needs to also be used for the service providers. They are doctors, coaches, all sorts of service providers. So we've built effectively two apps. Through our case studies at the beginning and fact-finding, speaking to therapists, speaking to users, we identified very early on that this had to be built over 3 platforms. It had to be built on iOS, Android, and then a desktop version as well. Because majority of our service providers, being doctors, they want to use it on their desktop, on their computers, whereas our users want to use it on their devices, which is fair enough. So we knew very early on it had to be built on 3 different platforms. So I think, again, word of advice is to do your assessment with your user, do your market analysis with your users or service providers very early on as to which particular platforms you require. Otherwise, you're going to waste, of course, a lot of money. For us, we needed to invest first up on all 3 platforms. And now we're, 2 years on, I'm quite grateful where we are. The app has actually been finished. We've had a lot of great support from the Apple team that's here in the region, which again, back to Saeed's comments, I don't think we would have had that connection if I had built it anywhere else. The Apple team here in the Middle East are so forthcoming, if I should say, where I guess part of, I wouldn't say it's a formalized incubator program, but they worked with us with our UI and UX to make sure that it was, up to standards. They've offered us the Apple Store in Dubai Mall, for example, when we're ready to, go all out in our launch. They've offered that to us, which is really grateful. We've been able to meet Sheikh Hamdan, for example, and been listed as one of the top 10 apps that are coming out of the region, but for the world, because this app is not specifically for this region alone, but it's built here, it's based here, our server is based here. We're working very closely with Dubai Health Authority and TDRA, but it's built for the world. So we've been able to get a lot of, I guess, feedback as such, and really, I guess, encouragement, more so than in terms of we haven't received funding, but more so encouragement to keep going because this was a Dubai-built app.
I do want to talk about this, and you brought me to the point that I really wanted to discuss and have all of you comment on this, really. Like, again, having Dubai as a base for an app. Like Shereen, you've just mentioned like all the good stuff. I do also want to talk about like what have been some of the challenges, maybe Manar, again, or maybe even like compare it to other markets. I know that you've been backed by Y Combinator, so maybe you can have that, difference in markets, so to speak. Like how does Dubai fare as a platform for creating app-based businesses?
I think one thing used to be like a huge problem, I think still is like a certain challenge, is Dubai is a great ecosystem, but in terms of market, it's not a massive market. I mean, you can compare it, for example, like US. Yeah, Silicon Valley is extremely successful because you have an amazing ecosystem. You have the investors, you have great schools and so on, but you also have the market. Yeah, we have 300 million people. And that's also something which is sometimes challenging, but like that's why one thing to encourage apps which actually don't need necessarily market. I mean, there are a lot of these apps, and that's WhatsApp. You have like now TikTok and so on. And I think Dubai is an amazing place to launch a product, but also to aim for global reach. Yeah? I think there's also like, things where you can take them globally relatively quickly. And what we request from Dubai is, I think, to create and help like that ecosystem of great young people, from interns to students to obviously the VC system and so on. And I think that makes a difference. I just came back from actually Y Combinator visit event in Silicon Valley, and that's what makes also, I think, the Bay Area. And there's a lot of events happening. There's a lot of, also not just events, because like, I mean also real strong entrepreneurs. They are nerds. They spend like 14 hours at home coding and so on. They are not necessarily like other types. And you want to also support them with giving them resources to do what they can do.
Saeed, I want to ask you, maybe from your personal experience, like maybe friends, family who are building applications out of Dubai for the world, for not just for the region, I really want to say for the world going forward. What have you heard? What have been some of the stories you've heard in terms of like success stories that can be an inspiration for others?
So one of the apps that actually caught me by surprise was when we did the launch for the Create apps with His Highness Sheikh Hamdan. He came in and he stopped by one of the founders of an app called Drive You, which I have not used at the time. And he told him, he just said, Drive You. He told him, please be quiet. Took out his phone. He's like, I have your app. And what was surprising to me was that, again, going back to what Manar was mentioning, because they had this global idea from the get-go, they're the most popular app in Kuwait. And I think for me that caught me off guard. Another is the Fonts app as well. So is a developer on his own developed the Fonts app, which is the most popular app in Indonesia, and he's just sitting somewhere in the palm. And what really surprised me, I think it's the amount of impact that you can create, in particular because, as all of us, right now you're holding your phone, men are referring to notes, myself as well. Again, this is an extension of us, right? And you're able to impact the now 4 billion people that have access to internet through the app, and really being able to, as a result, transform their lives through something as simple as coffee delivery to your car, or even interacting with businesses and being able to grow.
Yeah. The whole idea of like getting to transform someone's life or someone's business, even for that matter, just by virtue of what you hold in your hand, that's something that is definitely worth aspiring for and hoping for. I do see that we are running out of time, and so now I'm going to do my roll call of all the panelists now. Literally talk to the people in the room. These are people who want to build their apps. They're people who are aspiring, or maybe having that great dream in their head, like there is not an app for that yet, maybe I should be the one to create it. What's your advice for them? Do's, don'ts, maybe if you can stick to, like, I want to say 3 tips per person, that would be great. I'll start with you, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. So an absolute do, and I know that this has been spoken about earlier on the panel, is start small with your MVP. Go out there, gather your feedback, iterate on it, listen to what people are saying and giving you as feedback. You're going to pivot and change. Day 1 of your app, by the time you get to day 100, by the time you get 3 years in, it looks completely different. So that would be my absolute do. Start small. An absolute don't is don't try and launch a perfect app. Don't just sit there and build it and build it and build it and build it and then launch it. And then you find that it's not actually what's needed, or you need to add this or need to add that. You're going to get a lot of feedback. Be careful with that feedback. It goes back to the typical 80-20 rule. You've got a silent majority. That's who you're going to be building the app for. And then you've got this really loud minority that has different views and different wants and needs, and they're going to be incredibly vocal. Don't build for them. Build for your actual target market. The last thing I would say is remember personal security. And the security of your app, it's likely to be very different in the future to what it is today. You're seeing a lot of changes around, data protection and things like that. So keep that in mind when you're building your app as well. I suppose that all depends on what industry, but just keep that in the back of your mind always as well.
Absolutely. So number one, start small. I want to say number two is kind of related to that, like don't wait for it to be perfect. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Number three would be, yes, don't compromise on the security of your users. Make sure your users are catered to regardless of the sector you're working in. And number four, of course, listen to your users, but listen to your majority of users.
Yes.
That might be the best way to put it. Cool. Shereen,
Yeah,
go
I would say data. Data. Really collect that data initially in terms of what your users are looking for. I mean, we may come up with an idea and say, yeah, it will be really useful for us, but will it be useful for the majority? And because that's your target market, it's not just you and your circle, right? So it has to be kind of perceived really strong. So collate your data very early on. Use AI to even help you with gathering that data. There are also various things about focus groups. You can actually hire a set amount of people that can give you that data as well. So I would say really invest in collating that data. You know, I second Elizabeth when she basically says start, just launch. I mean, build it, yes. But don't wait for that perfect app. And I think that's been the struggle. And I always say, and one of my best entrepreneurs that guided me very early on, he basically said that. He said, don't wait for it to be perfect, because it'll never be perfect, right? Just put it out there. And right now we're at a particular stage where we're onboarding basically all of our therapists. And I've been delaying this process, but we just had to shoot it. And now, once we started, we're over 1,000 therapists and service providers in. Whereas I really wasn't happy with the forms and how it laid out, but everyone just said, let's just do it. And I'm so grateful that I was pushed to do that. So it will never be perfect, but it will become and it will evolve so much, and you'll end up changing so much. I look at basically our screens of what we built initially, let's just say 2 years ago. We're already evolving right now, and it's just 2 years on, so it will be forever evolving, and that's okay. Like you said, if you're not embarrassed on your first version, then you've launched too late, and I really agree with that. So just a lot of data, and basically just get it launched to the market. And I think third is just basically invest where you need, because when it is self-funded, there is so much that you need to pay for, whether you're going to be hiring a CTO, your various different developers, whether they're going to be working from home, whether you need to get an office. There's licensing, there's a whole heap of stuff. Invest wisely where your money should go very early on, and that is to the actual product that you can end up showing people. So develop that very, very early on. And of course, I mean, for us, we needed to work very closely with DHA and TDRA, try to develop those relationships very early on, because they will end up helping you in the long term.
Thank you, Shereen. So I'm going to just run it down once again. Number one, of course, yes, decide where you're going to invest your time and money. I think that's an important point. Number two, again, just don't wait. Just start now. I mean, the App Olympics is right here. Just register for yourself right now, and then we'll see how the road ahead goes. And number three was invest in data. Yes, invest in data, because you need to know who you're catering your product to, and that will be critical for you. Manar.
I think it's summarized.
Yeah, you're like, they're all the points.
Yeah,
no.
Can only repeat it, but I think just two small things to add those. To the point, talk to you, but really sit down, have your team talk to users, spend a lot of time with them. And one thing Paul Graham used to say and put a lot of weight into is you better have a couple of users who really love your product than have a lot of people who are ambivalent to it. Yeah? So don't focus on pleasing the masses at the beginning. Yeah? Just get these strong relationships at the beginning, which benefit you, where you get a lot of really beneficial feedback, and put a lot of focus on those. I think that's important. At the end of the day, build something people really want, and when you build something people want, you will feel it, and you will feel when you don't. And I think that's a good guideline for a lot of things to do, and never give up. I think it's.
I mean, we go back to the entrepreneurial principles at the end of the day. It's about never giving up, doing what you do best, and of course, listening to your users. Saeed, last but not the least, your tip.
I mean, you've heard it from the experts, but I think from the outside, one of the things that I do want to mention as well is we do a lot of visits to different entrepreneurs, companies, governments, and the like. I think hundreds of those so far. But one thing that, just to add on what everyone mentioned, is testing. Being able to test and test, fail and test, succeed, test, keep testing and experimenting again. It will never be perfect, but as long as you are fine-tuning, your investors and your customers will appreciate you for that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like one of those things, you have an idea in your head, but unless it goes to the users and you see how they use it and interact with it, you'll never know. And it goes back to what I think is the integral message from this panel, at least. It's like start quickly, release it out as soon as possible. I don't know if you have time for questions. Amandeep, do we have time for questions? Maybe like one question, if anybody has a question. Raise your hands and I can get a mic over to you. Nope.
Going once, going twice.
Oh, there is a question there. Yes, please. Leda, if you can just introduce yourself and, just introduce yourself and go out.
Nice to meet you all. I'm Leda Di Marti, and I'm the CEO of Amel, which is a company for fashion consulting, which innovation and technology is an important part of what we do. So I would like to ask you, out of all your experience, now, what is the most particular industry where you find challenges that were out of your way, like something that make you think out of the box? What is the greatest thing that puts you on the spot and you had to find a solution?
I mean, we have this every day. I want to give an example. So in Saudi, we connect restaurants with suppliers, and usually would receive it at the beginning through email, our order. So in Saudi, we noticed nobody is responding to the orders because nobody uses email. Like 90% of the suppliers literally don't use email. So you have to then build, I mean, that's why you need to adapt fast. And don't say, okay, try to change people too much. Try to adapt your product into it. And what we did is we built a WhatsApp integration. So now basically people get a push of there, I think. That's what you always need to do. That's where you are close to the user, you understand it quickly and build things quickly for them.
Thank you.
I would say specifically for us, something more like waiting for the regulations to catch up. You can build an app, you can build all of these things, but you're like, for us, waiting for that ecosystem, for progress to be made across open banking, eKYC, there's a lot more movement that can happen in those areas that would help facilitate us having a much better UX UI experience for our clients to flow through that app process a lot quicker, that sign-up process, the ongoing KYC, things like that. Yeah.
Thanks, Leda. I really had to wrap it up. I can see everyone glaring at me. So thank you to all my lovely speakers.
Thank you
for
for
sharing
having
their
us.
insights. Thank you to a great audience. And do check us out on createapps.ae.